Sosiel is one of the most useful story characters in Wrath of the Righteous. I know a lot of people prefer Darren, who is a powerful party member as well, but the reality is, Sosiel has a lot more to offer your party on hard and unfair, mostly because of his access to domains, which Darren cannot get. I have already explained how powerful domains can be in my attack bonus guide, so in this one I will focus on how to properly build your domain focus at Sosiel. Alright, so Sosiel comes at level 6 with access to Selective Channel and also Extra Channel. Both these feats are somewhat decent and will help him heal your party during the early and mid levels. He also comes with Toughness, a rather decent feat, and last but not least, Median Armor Focus, which in the case of Sosiel is kind of worthless. Anyway, so at level 7, we'll get our first feat for Sosiel. As far as skills, I recommend increasing Lore Religion without a doubt, as he will have high wisdom, Perception to help find traps and secrets, and you can also choose to increase Persuasion if you don't already have another character capable of doing so. In the case of Sosiel, it's important to note that he has a background that makes his Persuasion scale of Wisdom instead of Charisma, so he will end up with high Persuasion, even though he does not have high Charisma. Alright, so at level 7, we get our first feat for Sosiel. I strongly suggest you pick Outflank as soon as possible. As usual, this feat is amazing, and it does quite a lot for just one feat. Because our Sosiel will be attacking the enemy, we definitely want Outflank to help increase our attacks of opportunity. So at level 8 you also get to increase your first ability point. Wisdom is the one we want really, because it has great synergy with the domain's abilities we will be picking for Sosiel later on. So let's increase Wisdom. Level 9 means our second feat. And in this case, I suggest you go with Combat Reflexes. As always, teamworks and feats that increase the power of your attacks of opportunity are amazing, especially when you have them on all your melee characters. Now it is true that Sosiel doesn't really have high dexterity per se, he only has 10, but you can increase his dexterity with Cat's Grace or a similar belt, meaning with a +4 to his dexterity, he will be able to get 2 extra attacks of opportunity. Not only that, but Combat Reflexes is also a prerequisite for the Seize the Moment feat, which you'll be getting later on. Alright, level 11 is also an easy choice. In this case, we want Improved Critical. I suggest you get Glaive, as Sosiel does have proficiency from being a Cleric of Shelling. Glaives are overall very powerful weapons in Wrath of the Righteous, as they are also the favorite weapon of Baphomet, so many cultists you meet in the game will be carrying powerful glaives that you can use for Sosiel or another party member. So let us pick Improved Critical Glaive. Alright, now for level 13, I like picking the feat Seize the Moment. As usual, my builds often focus on generating as much attacks of opportunity as possible, both for Sosiel and your party members, and also making these attacks of opportunity as powerful as possible, so it does help for Sosiel to have Seize the Moment. Level 15 is when I would say things get a bit more personal and depend on your choice really. You can, for example, pick the Shake It Off feat. As you might have noticed from my other builds, I enjoy picking these feat for all my characters because it highly increases their saving throws, meaning it will help them save against most annoying crowd control effects that the enemies might throw at them. And if you have been playing Wrath of the Righteous, you know quite a lot of enemies love spamming crowd control effects that hit your entire party at once. So in my case, I'm going to pick Shake It Off. Another wisdom increase at level 16. Alright, for level 17 I like to keep it simple basically, so I'll be going with Weapon Focus Glaive. You can of course choose this feat before or at level 15 instead of Shake It Off, and later on get both Dazzling Display and Shatter Defenses to help Sosiel hit the enemies. In my case, I'm not really a fan of Shatter Defenses because of the fact that it requires Dazzling Display, so I'll just keep it simple with Weapon Focus. Alright, now at level 19 we get our last feat choice. As I often say, the teamwork feats and improved critical are what really matter for most melee characters that aren't fighters. So the choice is really up to you. You can pick something like improved initiative to help Sosiel act before the enemy, but as his dexterity is very low, chances are improved initiative won't really be enough to help him in this case. If you have Sosiel as your persuasion character, then it does actually help to get skill focus persuasion here, because this will help him against the high endgame checks. Personally, I'll pick Blind Fight because this is going to help Sosiel hit the endgame enemies that have very annoying forms of concealment that are not pierced by true seeing. Now at level 20 we'll get our last ability point, which of course will go to Wisdom. Alright, so let us talk about Sosiel's Mythic Progression now, and this is where the real power of this build resides, because here is where we can get as many domains as possible from the Impossible Domain Mythic ability. As you will be able to see later on, we can actually pick this ability as many times as we want. Now you probably know I really like pets, especially in Wrath of the Righteous. For Sosiel's first Impossible Domain, I recommend you pick without a doubt Animal. Animal Domain will give Sosiel a powerful scaling pet. If you have already seen my Animal Companion build, which I will link down below, then you know how powerful Animal Companions can be. As usual, I recommend you pick the dog. Now it is important to say that Sosiel will be able to mount his dog as soon as level 7, meaning most enemy attacks, physical attacks that is, will target the dog's armor class instead of Sosiel, so he does not need to have high armor class at all. Now for Sosiel's level 2 mythic, I recommend you pick yet another mythic ability instead of a feat. In this case, once again, we are going for Impossible Domain. And now the best choice is without a doubt Community Domain. Community Domain gives you access to Guarded Hearth, one of the most powerful buffs in the whole game. This ability will create a stationary area that enhances your party's saving throws and attack bonus by the Cleric's Wisdom modifier as a sacred boost. To put it simply, it's insane, and late game you will be looking at something like plus 12 to all your character's saving throws and attack rolls. Not only that, but Community Domain also gives you access to a scaling heal ability that you can use multiple times per day, and will actually even remove fatigue. So overall, it's one of the best domains in the whole game. Now for Sosiel's level 3 mythic, we are once again picking another impossible domain. In this case, Nobility Domain. Now Nobility Domain will give Sosiel access to the Inspiring Command ability, a powerful buff that will raise your entire party's attack rolls, armor class, and skill checks for a number of rounds equal to half the cleric's level, by a plus 2 insight bonus. Because of how rare insight bonuses are and the fact this hits your entire party, it's a very useful buff. Not only that, but Nobility Domain will also give Sosiel access to the Greater Heroism spell as a domain slot. Alright, now it's time for Mythic level 4, and guess what? Once again, we are going to pick another impossible domain. In this case, the Madness Domain. This domain will allow Sosiel to buff a character with the Visions of Madness ability. Without a doubt, this is one of the most powerful buffs in the whole game, if not the most powerful buff of them all. It is capable of giving the target up to plus 10 in either attack rolls, saving throws, or skill checks, basically half the cleric's class. An amusing part about this ability is that it also works on enemies. So let us say you are fighting against a demon lord with very high attack bonus and saving throws. By having Sosiel use Visions of Madness as a touch attack against the enemy, and choose skills for example, you will be giving said demon lord up to plus 10 skill points, but at the same time you are also going to reduce their attack rolls and saving throws by a massive 10. Talk about a very powerful buff with high utility. This ability is actually one of the main ways you have of reducing the enemy saving throws on unfair. Because, as I said before, it does not require a save, only a touch attack. Now for Mythic level 5, we have actually already exhausted the most powerful domains in the game. You can, however, if you want, pick the impossible domain, Destruction. This will give Sosiel an aura that increases the damage everyone inside the aura receives by up to half his class levels in Cleric. What this means is that at max Cleric level, all your characters are going to hit the enemy for up to plus 10 morale, which is certainly a lot higher than the maximum morale bonus you can get from a spell, in this case Heroic Invocation, that only adds a plus 4. Now I consider this ability to be somewhat overkill, so I wouldn't really say it's needed unless you want your damage to be as high as possible. In this case, for Sosiel's level 5 mythic ability, my favorite choice is without a doubt Domain Zealot. With this ability, Sosiel is able to cast all of his domain abilities as a swift action. This is very powerful for both Nobility Domain with Inspiring Command and also Community Domain with Guarded Hearth, because these two abilities are cast as full round actions, meaning it takes Sosiel 6 whole seconds to cast them. With Domain Zealot, however, he will be able to cast them instantly. Not only that, but if you use them during battle, you will also be able to use yet another action in the same round, because they will count as swift actions. This is also great for buffing your whole party with the Visions of Madness ability, as it has a low duration of 3 rounds. However, when you cast it instantly as a swift action, you can easily buff all your whole party while still having quite a lot of duration left. So let us pick Domain Zealot. Alright, for Sosiel's level 6 mythic ability or feat, I actually like picking a feat for once. In this case, Improved Critical Glaive. This will highly increase the damage Sosiel can cause with his glaive. And even though glaives don't really have a high critical range, because of how many attacks we are getting, especially attacks of opportunity, it is quite easy to get a critical hit even with a glaive. Alright, now we are at Mythic level 7. Starting from now, there are quite a few different mythic abilities you can pick for Sosiel depending on your tastes. For example, you can choose to get him Last Stand, as this is going to help us against the powerful late game enemies with very high damage and other annoying effects. You can also choose to pick instead the Mythical Beast ability, a very powerful buff for our animal companion. Last but not least, you also have the Ever Ready mythic ability that will highly increase the damage Sosiel deals with his attacks of opportunity. Frankly, these three are the main abilities I would be picking at level 7, 8 and 9 mythic. In this case, I like going with Mythical Beast because unlike the other two abilities, Mythical Beast is always on. Alright, as I said before, in Mythic level 8 we are also going to pick a mythic ability, and in this case I like going with Ever Ready. You can also pick Last Stand, as I said before, but because Sosiel will be mounted on his dog, chances are he won't really be hit with many physical attacks, so he won't really be dying a lot, even on unfair. At last, now we are at Mythic level 9, and get to choose our final mythic ability. Like I said before, I would go with Last Stand to finish our mythic progression. As usual, you will still get another mythic ability or feat later on at Mythic 10, but like I often say, by the time you get Mythic level 10, there are only really 2 enemies left in the whole game to fight, so you won't get to make much use of it. You can, of course, change the order of some of these mythic abilities and feats. In this case, for example, I took Improved Critical earlier by respecting Sosiel, and also got Destruction Domain. You can even get something like Enduring Spells and Greater Enduring Spells if Sosiel is your sole buffer. It is also important to note that Sosiel already comes with the Good Domain. This will grant him access to the Holy Lance special ability, a very powerful domain ability. With Holy Lance, you can increase any weapon of your party members, including a ranged weapon such as a bow or a throwing axe, with the Holy special quality. This is one of the best enchantments in the whole game, and Holy will basically add 2d6 damage to your weapons against evil enemies. Alright, so let us talk about how I usually prepare my spellbook for Sosiel. Because I often tend to use both Darren and Camellia in the same party as Sosiel, there are some buffs here that I leave for Darren and Camellia instead of Sosiel. For level 9 spells, as usual, you definitely want as many mass heals as possible, and also a single casting of Winds of Vengeance to increase Sosiel's speed by a lot. Level 8 cleric spells are kinda disappointing. In this case, I have one casting of Greater Angelic Aspect and a lot of Shield of Law. Now, what makes Shield of Law such a powerful spell is that it will protect your entire party against mind-affecting spells and effects used by demons who are chaotic enemies. Level 7 cleric spells are also somewhat disappointing. In this case, I like having Greater Restoration, Greater Heroism from the Nobility Domain slot, one casting of Resurrection, and you can also use Bestow Grace of the Champion if you have a lawful good character on your party that's not a paladin. For level 6 spells, the choices are easy. You certainly want Heal, and in the case of Sosiel, as I do like to melee with him, I also like casting the spell Eagle Soul. Meanwhile, in his domain slot, I have Cat's Grace from the Animal Domain. This is because Camellia and Darren cannot get Cat's Grace by default. For level 5 spells, I like using Burst of Glory, a very powerful party-wide buff, and also a single casting of Life Bubble. When it comes to level 4 spells, there are actually a lot of powerful buffs here, but in the case of my Sosiel, I like having a few castings of Divine Power, a very powerful self buff, and a few of Death Ward. Now, just like I said before, I also tend to use Darren in the same party, so I leave certain buffs like Freedom of Movement and the highly powerful Crusader's Edge to Darren. For level 3 spells, I have Prayer and a few magical vestments. Meanwhile, for level 2 spells, I like having a lot of aids, as aid will grant you a stacking boost to temporary hit points that also works with other boosts like from Greater Heroism and Heroic Invocation. Also, a single casting of Find Traps to increase his perception when detecting traps, and one of Effortless Armor to reduce the speed penalty of wearing medium armor. For level 1 spells, I certainly like having a single casting of True Strike for his domain slot, as this will give him a plus 20 to a single attack roll, a few Shields of Faith for armor class boosting, and also some Divine Favors, another powerful self buff. Alright, so that was basically it. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to build Sosiel as a domain focused character. As usual, my builds are made to work from the early game to the end game, and this build in particular is sure to help your party by supporting all of them with very powerful domain abilities. Thank you for watching, and please remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. See you next time!